Now we're going to have the reading of the law, starting in Exodus, the 20th chapter, verse 1 through 17. Okay, Antoine.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Now let's go into Ecclesiastes, 12th chapter. Read verses 13 and 14. Go ahead.
Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
Let's go to Revelation chapter 22. Read verses 14 and 15. Okay, go ahead.
Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
So we want to thank God for giving us this law, and we want to make sure that you understand that these laws are unbreachable, and that if you're going to get into the kingdom of the Father, you're going to have to keep these laws. It's always good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. Now, this lesson we have, sisters and brothers, sprung out of the early Israelites, and then the Muslims started saying it too, that the 400 years, we were going to spend 400 years of slavery in America, and then the Lord was going to deliver us. But now the 400 years have passed. But the problem was, sisters and brothers, when this was spread and when this was taught, Israelites thought that the only slave, all of the Hebrew Israelite slave was here in America. They didn't even go as far as the American hemisphere. They said in the United States of America. So when the 400 years old with, the Lord going to come and take this Gentile down, and we were going to go back to the land. But what happened is, when the Lord talked to Abraham about this, sisters and brothers, he was talking about all Israel. And as sure as I'm standing here, you have some that think that all of the Israelite slaves are right here in America. That was the attitude in those days. But now we got some youngsters that are smarter now. So they say all of the Israelites are in America's hemisphere. Some of them even have all 12 tribes here. But the Lord said he was going to scatter his people into every nation under the sun. But we're going to look at this. We're going to see if this is indeed the 400 years that God spoke to Abraham about. And the title of this lesson is The 400 Years of Captivity. Is it now or in the past? The 400 years of captivity, is it now or in the past? Now we'll go on to Genesis the 15th chapter, where the Lord engaged Abraham and start dealing with Abraham. We're going to start this at Genesis 15 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward.
He was Abraham, it was Abram at first, but the Lord changed it to Abraham because he said, I made you a father of many nations. He said, I'm your shield and great reward, exceeding great reward. Go ahead and read.
And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir.
So he won't ask the Lord, you know, what are you going to offer me? What you going to give me? I don't even have a child. I have a guy, a servant in my house, and he's the one that's going to end up being my heir. But the Lord spoke back to him. Go ahead and read.
And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir.
He said, this guy is not going to be your heir. The heir to you is going to come out of you. Go ahead and read.
And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them.
Go ahead.
And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be.
Go ahead.
And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness.
So when he told Abraham, look, your seed going to be like the stars of the heaven, Abraham believed him. So the Lord counted that for righteousness. Go ahead.
And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it.
Go ahead.
And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it?
So the Lord said, look, I brought you out of Ur, and I'm going to give you this land that you see, and you shall inherit it. So Abraham wanted to know, how is it then that I know I'm going to inherit it? Skip down to verse 13 and go ahead.
And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
Now this is where the discrepancy comes. Not in the scripture, but in belief. The Lord said, look, they're going to be in a land that's going to that's not theirs, and they're going to be afflicted for 400 years. Go ahead.
And also that nation whom they shall serve.
Now, it didn't say also those nations. No. It said also that nation whom they shall serve. Go ahead.
Will I judge. And afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
And once I judge them, they're going to come out with great substance. Go ahead.
And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age.
Go ahead.
But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
Now this 16th verse, no, it has been totally ignored. It said, but in the fourth generation they shall come here again. Fourth generation from where? From Abraham. That's who the Lord was talking about. In the fourth generation, they're going to come back in here, but still he said something else. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet fulfilled. So now, their release has something to do with the Amorites. What you mean they're not fulfilled? God gave the Amorites a time to get it together. And when that time is up, it's going to be up for the Amorites, just like he gave the Gentiles a time. That's what they call the times of the Gentiles. When that time is up, it is up. So now we are going to we're going to look at this. Let's start with the release of Israel. Let's go into Exodus the 12th chapter, because he said in the fourth generation they're going to go back to the land of Israel. That's the land that God gave Abraham. And then he also said that it's going to be in the, it's going to be, that's when they're going to be released. So let's look at this. We're going to start this at 12 and 1. This is when the Lord broke Israel out of Egypt. This is when the Lord had beat Egypt down. He had brought 10 plagues on them. And the last plague that he brought on them was the killing of the firstborn. So once he did that, Egypt had enough. They wanted Israel out of there. But we're going to start this in 12th chapter and verse 1. Exodus 12 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Go ahead.
It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Uh-huh.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Now, he said, this is going to be the first month. This is the month Abib, sisters and brothers. So he want everybody to take a lamb for each household. And let's see what they're going to do with this lamb. Skip down to verse 5 and go ahead.
Your lamb shall be without blemish.
It's got to be without blemish. Can't have a flaw on it. It's got to be perfect. Go ahead.
A male of the first year.
It's got to be the firstborn. It's got to be a male. You couldn't use no female. Go ahead and read.
Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goat.
Go ahead.
And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
See, this is the Passover we about to go through. So you had to keep it up till the 14th month and kill it. You couldn't even kill that lamb before the 14th. You put him up on the 10th, and on the 14th you kill him at evening. That's when the sun go down. Go ahead and read.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door post of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
So when you eat this, when you kill this lamb, you got to get the blood, put it on the side post and on your door post and over the head, over the top of the door. Why is it that you're going to get this blood and do this? Let's skip down to verse 12, and the Lord will tell you. Go ahead and read.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt,
Go ahead.
both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord.
Because I'm going to pass through Egypt, and I'm going to kill every firstborn of everything, man and beast. Go ahead and read.
And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are.
Now, the blood going to be for you for a token on the houses. That's a token of your faith, because if you believe God, because faith means believe, then you put the blood over your doorpost. Go ahead and read.
And when I see the blood,
And when I see the Israelites' house,
when I see the blood,
when I see the righteous,
when I see the blood,
when I see the blood, go ahead.
I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
Look, it is the blood that the Lord saw, sisters and brothers, because the blood represents your faith, because you put it over. No Egyptian did it, but had the Egyptian put the blood over their doorpost, the Lord would have passed over them too. How? Because it is your faith that saves you. So now, when I see the blood, I'm going to pass over you. Skip down to verse 29. Verse 29, and go ahead.
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle.
Every house that did not have the blood over their doorpost, the Lord killed their firstborn. And all the cattle. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt.
Go ahead.
But there was not a house where there was not one dead.
That let me know no Egyptian believed Moses. Either they didn't believe or Moses didn't tell them. I don't know which is what. But let me know that no Egyptian believed in Moses, believed what Moses said. But go ahead and read.
And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel.
Go ahead.
And go serve the Lord as ye have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also.
Go ahead.
And the Egyptians were urging upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men.
So now the Egyptian had enough. When everybody woke up and the firstborn in their house was dead, whether it was a daughter or a son, whether it was old or young, if you was the firstborn, you was dead. They had enough of Israel. Pharaoh had enough. So they was urgent to get Israel out of Egypt, because they said, because as long as you here, we're dead men. God gonna kill us all. Skip down to verse 40. Verse 40. And go ahead.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
Now, people say, well, I heard people say, well, he mean 400, he mean exactly 400. You know, all I know is that they didn't stay down there for 500
That's
years.
right.
And they didn't stay down there for 399 years. He said 430 years, still is 400, is in the area of 400. But we're not going to concern ourselves with that. We're going to investigate the scripture and show you what the scriptures say. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt.
Now, so when on the 430-year day, on the day of the 430th year, all of the host of Israel left Egypt. He didn't leave one Egyptian down there. Now we're going to examine. Let's examine what God told Abraham and see if he was speaking of our captivity here in America or the captivity in Egypt. Because the people said 400 years, they talking about America here. But we're going to examine this and see when and where he was talking about we're going to serve this captivity. We're going to go into Genesis, the 15th chapter. Back to Genesis 15, and we're going to examine this and take our time and have a look at this, sisters and brothers. Because you have people looking for something, and it's not. You know, we had a religion out there. I ain't going to call the name, but they supposed that went somewhere one time, I think in 1914 or something like that, then 1944. Each date passed, and we're still here. The Lord have not come yet. They was talking about the coming of the Lord. I remember years ago, we had some pastor on the west side of Chicago told the people that the Lord's going to come on some particular day, and they selling their properties. And he bought some of it. Nobody paid no attention that, look, you the preacher.
Right.
If you say we're going somewhere, why are you buying the property?
Right.
People don't think sometimes. So now, we're going to examine this so we will understand what God was saying to Abraham. Now, Genesis 15, and we're going to read verse 13, 15 and 13. Okay, read it.
And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Okay,
going to serve him, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, what land? Now we're going to go and know what we know. One nation where all of Israel served, not a piece of them. Not the tribe of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi, and then Dan somewhere else, and Naphtali somewhere else, and Issachar somewhere else. I'm talking about all of Israel was in this particular land. Let's go look at it. Let's go in the 105th chapter of Psalms, Psalms 105. Now, all of Israel was in this land, sisters and brothers. And I can't think of another time, and I mean that, another time when all of Israel, the whole 12 tribes, was in the same land at the same time. And we're going to examine this. Because when God told Abraham is his seed was going to dwell. I mean, all of them. In a land that's not there, and they're going to afflict them and evil treat them. Let's start at verse 23. Psalms chapter 105 and verse 23. Because this is how you find out about stuff, sisters and brothers. You take your time and you read the book. You don't listen to sound bites and what somebody believes. Verse 23, 105 and 23. Okay, go ahead.
Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
Now, Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. Most people don't know that the Egyptians are Hamites.
That's right.
Egyptian is the second oldest son of Ham, Mizraim, and he is black. That's why the Greeks looked at him and said, these guys are black. Egypt is a Greek word which means black, sisters and brothers. Go ahead and read.
And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies.
Go ahead.
He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants.
So the Lord increased him, and the Lord turned his heart to hate his people and to treat them wrong. Go ahead and read.
He sent Moses his servant and Aaron whom he had chosen.
Go ahead.
They showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham.
So that's what they did. They went out and showed their signs among the Egyptians, which is the land of Ham, sisters and brothers. Skip down to verse 36. Verse 36, and go ahead.
He smote also all the firstborn in their land.
We just got through reading that, didn't we? He smote also the firstborn of their land. Go ahead and read.
The chief of all their strength.
Go ahead.
He brought them forth also with silver and gold. And there was not one feeble person among their tribe.
I mean, he brought every one of them. They didn't have one sick person among the tribe. I mean, he brought everybody. Go ahead and read.
Egypt was glad when they departed, for the fear of them fell upon them.
Go ahead.
He spread a cloud for a covering and fire to give light in the night.
Now, Egypt wanted to get rid of Israel now because it cost them their firstborn. But skip down to verse 42 and go ahead.
For he remembered his holy promise and Abraham his servant.
What do you mean holy promise? He made a promise to Abraham.
That's right.
What was that promise? That look, after 400 years, in the fourth generation, I'm going to bring your seed back to this place.
Right.
That's what he promised Abraham. Your seed going to go into captivity into a nation, and they're going to afflict them for 400 years, but at the end of the 400 years, they're going to come back to this place, which is the land of Israel. That's the promise he made to Abraham. Go ahead and read.
And he brought forth his people with joy and his chosen with gladness. And gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people.
Now, when he brought them forth, he brought them back to the land where God told Abraham he was going to give to his seed. Go ahead and read.
And that they might observe his statutes and keep his law. Praise ye the Lord.
Now, what verse was that?
We just finished 45.
Now, look, he brought his people back, sisters and brothers. Just like he promised Abraham, I am going to bring your seed back. But when? In the fourth generation. From what? From him. Now let's go into Genesis, the 15th chapter. Genesis, the 15th chapter. Because, and this time we're going to read, start at verse 14. Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15. Because we're going to take our time and look at this, sisters and brothers. Because this is not really hard to see. It's just that nobody bothered to look. It's easy to make statements, but it's a little harder if you have to investigate before you make statements. But this is not hard. Genesis 15, and we're going to start reading at verse 14. Genesis 15 and verse 14. Okay, read it.
And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance.
He's not also that nation. They should judge. I'm going to judge them, and they're going to come out with great substance. Skip down to read verse 16. Go ahead.
But in the fourth generation.
He making sure you understand. But in the fourth generation, go ahead.
They shall come hither again. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
Now, further in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet fulfilled. So now, they had, the Amorites had to serve a time that God gave them to be in their land. But he said going to come in the fourth generation, didn't he? Right. From Abraham. But let's go into Matthew, the first chapter, and let's look at something here. Because it might be worth taking a look at. Matthew's chapter 1. Matthew's chapter 1. See, this is how you find out about stuff, sisters and brothers. The Lord said, let us reason together. How do you reason with the Lord? By reading his word. Not by trying to negotiate with him or dispute what he said. You reason with him by reading his word and obeying it. So Matthew's chapter 1. Matthew's chapter 1. We're going to read verse 1. Matthew's 1 and 1. Okay, read it.
The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham.
The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Skip down to verse 17. Verse 17. And let's look at these generations here. Verse 17. Go ahead.
So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations.
From Abraham to David, a 14 generation. That eclipsed that fourth generation, didn't it? But go ahead and read.
And from David unto the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations.
And from the time of King David until they got carried to Babylon and captive, it's 14 generations. Go ahead and read.
And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations.
So now, even if it was 14 generations later, from Babylon to Jesus, now that's 42 generations.
That's right.
And we are still in captivity. God cannot lie. He said, I'm going to bring them back to this place in the fourth generation.
That's right.
He's because the Amorites still have some iniquity to feel. Now let's go and investigate that now. So we know we have gotten away from that fourth generation. Fourth generation, now you got 42 generations later when Jesus showed up, and still, how many generations now? Yeah, I can't even count them. But we are still here. But whenever this captivity he was promised Abraham was over with, he said it had to be when the Amorites have fulfilled their time. In other words, he's going to remove them. Now, we're going to Numbers chapter 21. Numbers chapter 21. Because we're just going to take our time and look at it and see what happened when Israel went to war and who they went to war with. And the Lord have laid this thing out, sisters and brothers, so we don't have no reason not to understand it. Numbers chapter 21. And we're going to start reading at verse 10. Numbers chapter 21 and verse 10. Okay, go ahead.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Oboth. And they journeyed from Oboth and pitched at Ijeabarim, and the wilderness which is before Moab toward the sunrise. From thence they removed and pitched in the valley of Zered.
Go ahead.
From thence they removed and pitched on the other side of Arnon.
That letting you know that Israel's traveling now. Once they have broken out of Egypt and gone into the wilderness, now they are traveling. Go ahead and read.
Which is in the wilderness that cometh out of the coast of the Amorites.
Now they're picturing this place, which is in the coast of Amorites. The Amorites, those are the ones that the Lord was talking about. Go ahead and read.
For Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites.
Wherefore, let's skip down to verse 21. So now we're in the border of Moab, borders of the Amorites, which is right out from Moab. Verse 21, go ahead and read.
And Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, Let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we be past thy borders.
So Moses had him send a message to the Amorites. Said, look, let us pass through your land. Said, well, look, we ain't going to turn around and eat your crops out of your field. We're not even going to drink your water. We just want you to let us pass through the king's highway, which went through the land of the Amorites. But let's see what the Amorites did. Go ahead and read.
And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness, and he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel.
So now all Sihon, the king of the Amorites, had to do was tell Israel, go ahead on, we ain't got no problem. But now what he did, he refused to let them pass, and not only that, he got his people and came out and attacked Israel. And let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword, and possessed his land from Arnon unto Jabbok.
Go ahead.
Even unto the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong.
Now, so Israel took the land from all the land between from the Ammonites, even to the borders of Moab. Go ahead and read.
And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, and Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof.
I'm starting to see now why the Lord told Abraham, in the fourth generation they're going to come. But the Amorites have some iniquity to fulfill. The Amorites are the first people of Israel went to war with. And they took their land from them. Skip down to verse 31. Verse 31. Go ahead.
Thus Israel dwelt in the land of the Amorites. And Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they took the villages thereof and drove out the Amorites that were there.
So they took the land from Ammon, and they drove them out from all the villages. Go ahead and read.
And they burned and went up by the way of Bashan.
And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan. Yep. Go ahead.
And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to the battle of Adri.
Now that's another king of the Amorites. He come out against Israel. So what happened? Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, fear him not, for I have delivered him into thy hand.
Go ahead.
And all his people and his land, and thou shalt do to him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon.
See, this is what the Lord told Moses, don't fear, because I'm going to give you all of this land. He knew he was going to give it to him because he promised Abraham that in the fourth generation they're going to come back to this place. But first, the Amorites have some iniquity to be fulfilled. In other words, but first, but the Amorites y'all gonna knock off the Amorites when y'all first come out of captivity. That's what he was telling them. So he told Moses, don't fear him, I'm gonna give you this land. Because this is what he had promised to Abraham. Go ahead and read.
So they smote him and his sons and all his people, until there was none left him alive.
Go ahead.
And they possessed his land.
So now that's why the Lord said the Amorites have time to fulfill. That'll let you know that once the captivity is over with, it's going to be over with, and they're going to go back to in the fourth generation. Why? From Abraham, sisters and brothers. And when they do that, they are going to possess the land. But who was possessing part of the land? The Amorites. So Lord gave them their time. Now let's go into Amos, the second chapter. Amos chapter 2, to back this up, what they did to the Amorites, sisters and brothers. Because when he made that promise to Abraham, you have to take in everything that he said. First, the generation they're going to come in back, and then who are they going to take the land from? The Amorites. Amos, the second chapter. Amos chapter 2, and we're going to start reading at verse 6. Amos chapter 2 and verse 6, then we're going to skip now. To let the Lord have this thing set so you cannot make a mistake with this, unless you simply didn't read the Bible. Verse 6, go ahead and read.
Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes. He
said, look, Israel has turned bad now. They're sinning against God, selling their own people, taking the rights of the poor away from them. And they just had turned bad. And then the Lord said, look, I'm going to punish for that. I'm not going to overlook that from you. Because look what I did for you. Skip down to verse 9. Verse 9 and go ahead.
Yet destroyed I the Amorite before them.
So look, yet I destroyed the Amorites before them. We just got through reading that, didn't we? Go ahead and read.
Whose height was like the height of the cedar.
Go ahead.
And he was strong as the oaks. Yet I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath.
Look at Israel. They just come out of slavery. What they know about war?
That's right.
So the Lord is the one that directed this battle. Go ahead and read.
Also I brought you up from the land of Egypt and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite.
Now, because the Amorite had some time. He told Abraham that. I'm going to bring them back, your seed back to this place in the fourth generation. But the Amorites have some time to fulfill. They have time to continue, and that I gave them to continue sinning against me. Even the apostle, the disciple Stephen, before they stoned him to death, talked about this same time. Let's go into Acts the 7th chapter. Acts chapter 7. Stephen, when they got him out there and he got in dispute with some other Israelites, because he always had various groups of Israelites come up with their own form of knowledge, a doctrine, apart from what was written in the book, sisters and brothers. And when they called Stephen, which was a Christian, because he followed Jesus, they disputed with Stephen. And they could not withstand his wisdom. So they lied on Stephen, and then they took him before the elders to examine him. And when they took him there, then Stephen explained himself and let them know that he understands the word of God, because he told them about Abraham. We're going to start at verse 2. Acts chapter 2, 7 rather. Acts chapter 7 and verse 2. Okay, read it.
And he said, men, brethren, and fathers, hearken. The God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dwelt in Sharon.
Now he's going to tell them about the same thing that God did to what we just read about what God said to Abraham. Go ahead and read.
And said unto him, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred, and come into the land which I shall show thee.
Go ahead.
Then came he out of the land of the Chaldeans and dwelt in Sharon. And from thence, when his father was dead, he removed him into this land wherein ye now dwell.
Now he left the shores of Chaldea, and he went to the land which is now called Jerusalem, sisters and brothers, which is now called Israel, brother. And he said, where we are dwelling right now, go ahead and read.
And he gave him none inheritance in it. No, not so much as to set his foot on. Yet he promised that he would give it to him for a possession, and to his seed after him, when as yet he had no child.
Now look, he promised Abraham, didn't give Abraham none of the land, but he promised his seed was going to possess the land. Even when he didn't even have a child. Remember, he took Abraham out. Abraham said to him, Lord, what will you give me? Seeing that I don't even have a child. And he took him out there and said, look, at the stars of heaven. That's what your seed going to look like. And Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him for righteousness. So he made this promise to Abraham before he even had a child. Go ahead and read.
And God spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage and entreat them evil 400 years.
So now we know we're talking about the same time, don't we? You're going to bring them into the land and the bondage. They're going to treat them evil 400 years. Go ahead and read.
And the nation to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said God.
Go ahead.
And after that shall they come forth and serve me in this place.
So now he's letting you know, just like he told Abraham, they're going to come back and serve me in this place, where Abraham was. In the fourth generation. Go ahead.
And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham begot Isaac and circumcised him the 8th day.
Go ahead.
And Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot the 12 patriarchs. And the patriarchs, moved with envy, sold Joseph into Egypt, but God was with him.
So Abraham begot Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot the 12 tribes. And so his brothers didn't like Joseph, so they sold him into Egypt. Go ahead and read.
And delivered him out of all his afflictions.
Go ahead.
And gave him favor and wisdom in the sight of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he made him governor over Egypt and all his house.
So Joseph's brother didn't like him, so they sold him to the Egyptian. But he went out there, and the Egyptian was with him, and the Lord gave Joseph favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh made him to rule over Egypt. He was second only to Pharaoh. Joseph ran Egypt. Skip down to verse 14. And so this is letting you know how that Israel got into Egypt in the first place. Go ahead.
Then sent Joseph and called his father Jacob to him, and all his kindred, 70 souls.
Go ahead.
So Jacob went down into Egypt and died, he and our fathers, and were carried over into Sychem, and laid in the sepulchre that Abraham bought for a sum of money of the sons of Emor, the father of Sychem.
Now look, he took Abraham, so Israel went on, Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, he went down in Egypt and died. Then all other brothers died. Those are the older ones. And then the Egyptians start to put Israel in slavery. And what happened? Verse 17, go ahead.
But when the time of the promise drew nigh,
Uh-huh.
which God had sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt.
Now, well, look, he said, when the time of the promise drew near, time of the promise, what promise? He said that God made to Abraham. What did he promise Abraham? That he was going to go into a nation, and they were going to even treat his seed for 400 years, and in the fourth generation, they was going to come back there. That was the promise, and possess the land. So when the time of the promise drew near, that God made to Abraham, then the Lord had the people to multiply, just like it said in the Psalms. Go ahead and read.
Till another king arose, which knew not Joseph.
Uh-huh.
The same dealt subtly with our kindred.
Now, notice now, he mentioned the 400 years while they was down in Egypt, didn't he?
That's right.
Maybe somebody overlooked this, sisters and brothers. Maybe somebody overlooked it, but go ahead and read.
And evil entreated our fathers, so that they cast out their young children to the end they might not live.
That means that they killed the firstborn of the males. Go ahead and read.
And which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair and nourished up in his father's house 3 months.
So we know this 400 years had Moses in it too, didn't it? Go ahead and read.
And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son.
So now, Moses grew up as an Egyptian. That'll let you know that what color Israel was, because Pharaoh would not mistake Pharaoh, which was a Hamite, second oldest son of Ham, which was black. How could he mistake Moses for the people that call themselves Jews now? It wouldn't work, sisters and brothers. We look like the Egyptians. So now, when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter got him and raised her as her own son. Skip down to verse 35. Verse 35 and go ahead.
This Moses, whom they refused, saying, who made thee a ruler and a judge?
See now, because Moses went out and he saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite. He looked around and made sure nobody saw him. He killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. So the next day he went out, he saw an Israelite beating an Israelite. And he told him, brother, why are you doing that? But the one was doing the beating. He cast the brothers away and said, hey, who made you the ruler and a judge over us? You going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? That's right. That's when Moses fled Egypt. And that same Moses that they rejected to be a ruler is the one that God sent to be a ruler and a judge. Go ahead.
The same did God send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the bush.
Go ahead.
He brought them out. After that, he had showed wonders and signs in the land of Egypt and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years.
So now he went and brought them out. That was at the end of the 430 years, sister and brother, or the end of the 400 years that he was talking about. That was done in Egypt, sisters and brothers. That was not done in America. The 400 years ended in Egypt, sisters and brothers. And this captivity that the Lord held them in Egypt was announced on them before they got to the promised land the first time. To tell the truth, this 400 years was announced before they was even born.
Right.
Let alone in the wilderness, the 400 years was over with. So now we're going to look at something else. We're going to look at this current captivity. This current captivity was called on us when we was in the wilderness. We hadn't even gotten to the land yet because the 400 years is over with now. Now we're going to get into this promise that God gave not to Abraham no more, that he told Israel. If you do what I tell you, I'm going to bless you. If you do something contrary to what I tell you, I'm going to curse you. Let's have a look at it. We're going to go to Deuteronomy the 28th chapter. Because now, where we are now, this was announced to Israel, not to Abraham. This was in the days of Moses. Abraham had long since been dead. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Because we're just going to examine this 400 years, sister and brother, because somebody have woefully mistaught this scripture. 28 and verse 1. Now remember now, they was gone from Egypt now. Now they're in the wilderness. And the Lord spoke to them, and look what he said. 28 and 1. Go ahead and read.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Now, once he got them in the wilderness, he started talking and teaching them. He said, now, if you do everything I tell you to do, I'm going to set you on high above all the nations of the earth. That's a big position, ain't it?
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Go ahead.
Blessed shall thou be in the city, and blessed shall thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
So in other words, I'm going to bless everything. I'm going to bless your cattle. I'm going to bless your children. If you're in the city, you're going to be blessed. If you're in the field, you're going to be blessed. Wherever I find you, I'm going to bless you.
That's right.
If you keep my commandments. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season,
Go ahead.
and to bless all the work of thine hand.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow.
See, look, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to open my windows up, and I'm going to pour out a big blessing, and you're going to be the financier of the world. You're going to loan money to many nations, and you ain't going to have to borrow nothing from anybody. That's if you keep my commandment. That's a big position, ain't it?
That's right.
When the money flows, it's going to flow from you to them in the form of a loan, and you'll be the one that had the big banks. You'll be the one that people have to come through if they wanted to buy property and didn't have the money. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail.
They're going to make you the head. Head of what? He already told you you're going to be the top nation on the earth. So you would be the head of everything and not the tail of anything. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt be above only.
You're going to be above only. That's a big statement, ain't it? Thou shalt be above only. I can't wrap my mind around that. That means whatever happened anywhere, or what go down anywhere, or whatever is performed anywhere, we're going to be in it, and we're going to be the one that's calling the shots. Go ahead.
And thou shalt not be beneath.
Go ahead.
If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them.
But just a stipulation. You got to keep my commandments. What commandment? The same one we read at the head before the start of every class, sisters and brothers. The Lord says God and he changed not. Skip down the first 15. Go ahead.
But it shall come to pass.
Now this is the other shoe he's going to drop now. But it shall come to pass.
If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So now if you will not listen to my commandments and do them, all these curses are going to come upon you. Go ahead and read.
Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field.
Go ahead.
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Look, he's going to curse everything you have. Skip down to verse 25 and go ahead.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemy. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them.
He said, look, you're going to go to war with your enemies. You're going to go one way to attack them, and they're going to scatter you because you're going to leave. He said, you're going to flee 7 ways from them, and look what's going to happen to you. Go ahead and read.
And shalt be removed unto all the kingdoms of the earth.
And you shall be removed. Not migrated.
That's right.
You shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Not one nation, sister, not one kingdom, all the kingdoms of the earth. That's a little different than being in captivity of Egypt. Ain't that correct?
That's right.
And all the nations of the earth, Skip down to verse 28. Verse 28 and go ahead.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
You're going to be angry all the time, but you're going to be blind because you ain't going to ever know what's going on, and you're going to be always astounded of what's happening to you. Whenever every time something ugly happens, it always fall on you, even if you are not around. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness.
When you grope, that means you don't know what to do. You done tried everything, sisters and brothers, and nothing worked. We done sit in. We done shook the fist. We have marched. We have done everything, and we have threatened. But still, police can shoot our children down like nothing. Our own children shoot themselves, kill themselves like nothing. And they say, well, ain't nothing we can do about it. And you don't know what to do. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save.
Now God said he gonna do this to you if you don't keep his commandment. And you're gonna be oppressed forevermore, and ain't nobody gonna save you. This guy John Brown, which was a Gentile preacher, he tried it. They killed him and his whole family. If God said ain't nobody gonna save you, ain't nobody gonna save you. And nobody's gonna save you but God. Go ahead and read. What verse?
We're at verse 30.
Thou
shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Now, you done build houses. You done had wives, and masters slept with her. You done build houses for other people, and you didn't feel it. And you done plant vineyards. There's crops and stuff. As slaves. And somebody else reaped the proceeds of it, sister and brother. The Lord said, this is going to happen to you. Skip down to verse 41 and read it.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them.
Go ahead.
For they shall go into captivity.
Now, when you were in slavery, they took your children like during the Inquisition. Like it did in France and in Portugal and Spain. Well, they couldn't change the people from the religion, the teaching that they got, the original Christians, which was Israelite. They even took their children and set up a place on our African continent and named it the Kingdom of Africa.
Yes, sir. Kingdom of Judah.
Or Kingdom of Judah, rather. And took your children and put them there so they can put this false religion into them. But you don't know that. Then when they got over here, they breeded you like cattle and took your children and sold them. And there ain't no might in your hand. You couldn't do nothing about it. Skip down to verse 43. Go ahead.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
You notice he didn't even name anybody. He said a stranger that's within you going to come up very high, and you're going to come down very low. That means that everybody and all your businesses in your community, the people that run them, look like somebody else. He didn't name a people. Go ahead and read.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him.
Go ahead.
He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
The Lord reversed this thing altogether. Go ahead and read.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
Go ahead.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
He said, all these curses are going to come upon you. They're going to pursue you, and they shall not be destroyed. You move in the country to kind of get away with it. You go in the city to get away from it. You're going to go into a nice suburban community. The curses come right on out there. They're going to pursue you. Go ahead and read.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
And they're going to be for you, upon you for a sign and a wonder. You know, you're wondering why this happened to us. But you know what a sign is? A sign identifies. That's when I get these certain groups, got all of these people like American Indians, and they got Puerto Ricans and Spaniards and certain people that are not Israelites, that these are the tribes of Israel. I said, do you want to know who the real Israelite is in this hemisphere? Find out who was brought over here as male and female slaves in the bottom of ships and was sold. If they weren't brought here as slaves and sold, then they are not Israelites. That's simple. All you got to do is look around. Skip down to verse 63. Verse 63, and go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, and ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it.
It's just like I'm rejoicing over you to bless you, I'm going to rejoice over you to bring that curse on. The Lord said, I'm the one that's doing this to you. That's why no matter where you find yourself in what hemisphere, you get the same treatment. It's no different. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
So he's not talking, so America is not all people, is it?
No.
He's going to scatter you among all people from one end of the earth to the other. Go ahead and read. In fact, America don't even, United States of America don't encompass the American hemisphere, does it? It only have its plot in North America. Go ahead and read.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known,
Go ahead.
even wood and stone.
And that's what we're doing, sister and brother. But we don't know about the God of Easter. We don't know nothing about the God of Christmas.
That's right.
We don't know nothing about the God of the rapture. We don't know nothing about the God whose holy day is the first day of the week, which is Sunday.
Right.
These are other gods. And that's who we're serving right now in the land that the Bible calls your enemy's land. Go ahead and read.
And among these nations shall thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Go ahead.
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
And that's what's happening. We don't get no ease. We're scared in our neighborhoods. The shooting going on. We're driving our car doing nothing. Police pull us over. We're scared to death because we don't know where that might go.
That's right.
We don't know whether it's going to be a good police that's going to do the job that he was trained to do and treat you with respect and protect like he's supposed to, or whether it's going to be one of these Neanderthals that having one thing in his mind only. I'm going to kill him if I can.
That's right.
We don't know. So when one pulls us over, we are scared and we're trembling. But the Lord said, this is going to happen to you. Go ahead and read. What verse?
We have verse 66.
Go ahead.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life.
So you're going to be scared. Your life is going to be in doubt. You're the most likely to get killed everywhere you are located. I have a book to show me where we had a group of people that was being destroyed on the African continent. And they wrote to the Europeans and the other people, Gentiles, to please do something and stop the Hamites from killing us. These are black people making this appeal. They kill you in Nigeria. They kill you in Ethiopia. They kill you now in the Sudan. And they killing you now in America. So your life shall hang in balance. But we don't know that because brothers think that this is all Israel right here in the USA. Skip down to verse 6 to 8 and look what he says is going to happen to you. Verse 6 to 8, go ahead and read.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
See, this ain't talking about the nation Egypt. To us, Egypt is the land of captivity.
Right.
Even Egypt is a house of bondage. Don't you know the first time we was ever enslaved by anybody was by Egypt, the Hamites that looked just like us? In fact, the history book tell you that the blacks was already selling slaves before the whites come on the scene. But who was it? Ham selling Israel. So when you get here, you're going to bring you into the house of bondage again, which Egypt represent to us, and what's going to happen? Go ahead.
Shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
Go ahead.
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So you're going to come in ships, in the hold of ships. And once you get there, you're going to be sold as bondmen and bondwomen. That's female male slaves and female slaves, and ain't nobody going to buy you out of this captivity. Nobody. You're going to be here until you serve every day. Now, this is what the Lord promised Israel, not Abraham. Because Abraham, for at the time that he talked to Abraham, that 400 years have been fulfilled, sisters and brothers. Now, let's go and see what fell on us. The blessing of the curse. We already know what it is. It's the curse, but we want to read it anyway. Let's go into Daniel's, the 9th chapter. Because people are arguing with that. You got people all telling me, ain't under no curse. Yeah. Don't pay your property taxes on your house that you don't owe a dime on. They will levy taxes and levy taxes, and eventually they will come and take your house away from you. Go hunting. Go deer hunting, rabbit hunting without a license. Go fishing without a license. Drive your own car that you own without a license and see what will happen to you. You don't run nothing. You don't make no decision. But let's see whether we're under the curse or under the blessing. Daniel's chapter 9. First, you're going to read verse 8. Daniel's 9. We're going to start at verse 8. Okay, read it.
O Lord, to us belongeth confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, and to our fathers, because we have sinned against thee.
So to us belong confusion. To our kings and fathers and everybody that was noble, because we have sinned against you. Skip down to verse 11 and go ahead.
Yeah, all Israel have transgressed thy law. Even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice.
Now, how many of Israel?
All Israel.
All Israel have transgressed their law. They done broken law, and they wouldn't obey that they might depart from you. They didn't want to walk after the law of God. Go ahead and read.
Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses.
Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that are written in the law of Moses. Go ahead and read.
The servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
And that lets you know that the curse has been poured upon us. Read the next verse. Go ahead.
And he had confirmed his words which he spake against us.
Just like he confirmed his word when he promised Abraham that Israel would go back to the land in the 4th generation after 400 years. Now he had confirmed his word that he's going to scatter us all over the world as male and female slaves. Go ahead and read.
Which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us.
Go ahead.
By bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
So now look around. See if anybody, even in this hemisphere, have had the things done to them as been done to us.
That's right.
Who in this hemisphere that came in the hulls of ship and was sold as male and female slaves other than us? See if you got anybody else who male and female were breeded like cattle. So they have some nice laborers and slaves to sell other than us. We are it, sisters and brothers. But the Lord said he was going to do this to us. But you want to know something? This did not start with America. This started way back when. What is when? With the Assyrians.
Right.
We're going to go and have a look at this, sisters and brothers. See, we're talking about America, but no. When the Lord called this curse of slavery and captivity on Israel, he called it on the whole nation of Israel.
Right.
Not just a tribe or 3 tribes. Because we know in this hemisphere, you got 3 tribes. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because the Lord had the Gentiles take them out. But not the Hamites, the Syrians were Hamites. They was not Arab, sisters and brothers. Syria are Arabian. But Assyria was Hamite. Came out of Nimrod.
change. Lord, I pray every day. Keep me in your way. I will change. In the twinkling of an eye, we'll be you in the sky. We'll never die. Change. In the image of your son. The victory is won. Lord, I'm so grateful. Gonna change the way that I walk. And I walk. Gonna change the way that I talk. Gonna change the things that I do. Just like you will change. Change the way that I pray. And I pray. Gonna change the things that I say. Lord Jesus, I will obey. Until that day will change. Change the things that I see. And I see. Gonna treat my brother like me.
Kiss the